Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, in the wake of a death involving a teacher's assistant and a student at a Texas high school, what one Kentucky school district is doing to keep staff and faculty safe. And Nikki Haley faces long odds in her home state just days before South Carolina's GOP primary.
Plus, we could see some more wintry action as we kick off your weekend. Your forecast on the way as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Nikki Haley continues the bus stop tour of her home state ahead of Saturday's primary vote. The former South Carolina governor faces long odds of winning despite getting help from a key constituent group. CBS's Natalie Brand has more from Washington.
Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley says her campaign will keep rolling no matter what happens in her home state GOP primary this Saturday.
I refuse to quit. South Carolina will vote on Saturday, but on Sunday, I'll still be running for president. I'm not going anywhere.
Haley is getting an assist from an army of women volunteers and supporters on the ground.
I've never done anything like this in my life.
Mary Beth Bockhorst from Wisconsin traveled all the way to South Carolina to help get out the vote. She's part of the Women for Nikki Coalition with chapters in all 50 states.
What got you involved this year? When I thought it was going to be Trump and Biden this summer, I couldn't sleep at night.
You know, for me personally, I'm doing this because I have 3 little kids at home.
Women for Nikki Executive Director Elizabeth Britt of Las Vegas says one of their goals is to reach out to voters turned off by Trump.
The majority of women, I think, have been disengaged. I think a lot of women left the party, the Republican Party.
But according to a recent CBS News poll, among likely female GOP primary voters, Haley trails Trump by more than 30 points, with almost 9 in 10 voters saying they're firmly decided.
There's a lot of trouble right now that has to be addressed, and he is by far the most qualified person to take care of that.
Despite Trump's firm grasp on the Republican Party, Haley has vowed to fight on to Michigan's primary next week and Super Tuesday on March 5th. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Marquette Law School released a new national poll Thursday which shows Haley leads President Biden in a hypothetical matchup by 16 points, 58% to 42%. Biden and Trump are in a virtual tie, with Trump leading 51 to 49%. The White House is considering a new executive action for the southern border. The policy would make it more difficult for migrants to seek asylum if they enter the U.S. illegally. It involves an authority known as 212F. Former President Donald Trump tried to do something similar in 2018. A federal court ruled 212F authority does not override existing asylum law. So it's not known how the Biden administration's action would overcome that.
I would hope that President Biden will go forward with his executive order, and I would hope that the executive order will stay within the 4 corners of this agreement that was reached on the Senate side, because I think there is extensive support in the House for what the Senate came to.
Right now, the action is only under consideration. A final decision on it has not been made. The Justice Department is working to cut off the flow of illegal funds that are helping to fuel Russia's war on Ukraine. Today, the DOJ announced a sweeping set of criminal and civil actions against sanctioned Russian oligarchs accused of supporting the Kremlin. The announcement comes just days before the 2-year anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The task force is made up of federal prosecutors, investigators, and analysts. President Biden met with Alexei Navalny's widow and daughter in San Francisco today. The president is currently traveling in California for political fundraisers, and Navalny's daughter is a student at Stanford University. According to a readout from the White House, the president voiced his condolences to the family. The president also expressed his admiration for the late Russian opposition leader's courage and his legacy of fighting against corruption. Today, Vice President Kamala Harris made a stop in Michigan on her nationwide Fight for Reproductive Freedoms tour. At a roundtable in Grand Rapids, she called attention to the court rulings that have sowed confusion following the reversal of Roe v. Wade.
So on the one hand, the proponents are saying that an individual doesn't have a right to end an unwanted pregnancy, and on the other hand, the individual does not have a right to start a family. And the hypocrisy abounds on this issue when you also consider that in the top 10 states with maternal mortality.
Harris also blamed former President Trump, saying he intentionally selected Supreme Court justices who would overturn Roe v. Wade. A new poll finds a majority of public school teachers believe state governments have too much influence over what's taught in their classrooms. According to the Pew Research Center, 58% of kindergarten through 12th grade teachers feel that way. When it comes to race and inequality, 60% of teachers say parents should not be allowed to opt their children out of those lessons. Well, you probably know a lot of folks have been dealing with the reported loss of cellular service today, but earlier this afternoon, a spokesperson with AT&T said service had been restored to all of its customers. AT&T says they had more than 70,000 customers reporting outages at one point this morning.
We are tracking some wet and breezy weather as we go into this Thursday evening. Here's a live look at the radar, and as you can see, those rain chances continue to increase as we go into this evening. Zooming into the Cumberland Valley, some light showers in Williamsburg, pushing into London. Also some heavier downpours in Rockcastle County, pushing into portions of Jackson County at this hour. And same story close to the Mountain Parkway for Wolfe County, into portions of Lee and Breathitt counties at this hour as well. And same story close to the Kentucky and West Virginia borders. Some heavier downpours close to Paintsville and Johnson County, pushing into Lawrence County at this hour. And here is a live look from Lawrence County, courtesy of the Kentucky Mesonet, as we see some more cloudy weather close to Louisa, as showers continue at this hour as well. Up to 59 for Hazard, 62 in Harlan, and 61 for Manchester, also in Middlesboro at this hour. So once again, we are well above average on this Thursday, and more mild weather on the way as we go into your Friday as well. Winds also breezy, gusting to 25 in Somerset, 24 in Campbell County, Tennessee, and gusting to 21 over in Middlesboro at this hour in Bell County. And again, we stay breezy as we go into this evening as well. If you have those plans this evening, be sure to grab the jacket, as we are watching out for some more showers, and those temperatures stay mild in the middle to lower 50s, 40s on the way to wake up on Friday, but we could stay in the 30s all day by your Saturday. Those details coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
Cameron, thanks. School safety in Kentucky is at the forefront of school leaders' minds after a deadly incident in Texas. A teacher's assistant died following what's being called an interaction with a student that caused him to fall and hit his head. His death is being investigated, but as Alyssa Williams shows us, one school district says safety is #1 in their schools.
It's a situation that any educator could be faced with.
It's highly concerning anytime you hear of a staff injury or, heaven forbid, a fatality. So yes, it causes alarm for sure.
It was earlier this month that 73-year-old Alfred Jimenez, an instructional assistant at a San Antonio, Texas high school, died following what officials say was an interaction with a student. Woodford County Schools Assistant Superintendent Garrett Wells says there are safety protocols in place that may prevent a situation like this from happening.
All of our schools have a core team that's trained in what's called safe crisis management. It's a multi-day training. And those individuals that have that training, approximately half of that training is not necessarily on the physical holds, but the de-escalation strategies that come along with it. So yes, they are trained on how to intervene appropriately.
Wells says in addition to a core team of at least 3 people, all staff members have training on how to de-escalate a student before it leads to an altercation.
We're fortunate enough here that we don't have very many fights. They happen from time to time, as they do in any school, in any setting. But when they happen, it's really up to that individual employee to determine their comfort level on if they want to intervene physically or if they want to get assistance in doing so.
Wells says having school resource officers has also helped to ensure staff safety.
we want our staff to be safe, we want our students to be safe, and so we want to have measures put in place to maximize the chances of everyone coming to school and having a safe, productive day.
In Woodford County, Alyssa Williams, WKYT.
You might remember a similar situation happened to a teacher in southern Kentucky in 2011. Dwayne Bunch was a teacher at Whitley County High School. He was trying to break up a fight with students when he fell and hit his head. He died a year later. He was also a state representative at the time, and his widow filled his seat for several years. A new survey finds more than 80% of homeowners have at least one issue in their home that needs to be addressed. How to save for those home repairs amid inflation and rising home insurance premiums.
And you will need the rain gear this evening, timing out those showers after this break.